This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
How about Standard Heating and Air? Love you, Standard Heating and Air, for bringing us Ben Goessling on a weekly basis. Columnist, covers the Minnesota Vikings for the Star Tribune, startribune.com. Access Vikings, you got podcasts, we got newsletters, we got all kinds of bits. And I know that you're on the grind into the bye just like everybody else. Everyone trying to get healthy, everyone trying to feel 100% out of the break to face Philly. But maybe going backwards for a moment to move forward, getting the W in Cleveland, and maybe your perspective in terms of what you heard from the head coach. We had talked about it earlier, Ben, and I think I got to talk back on it. Just listening to Kevin O'Connell speak through kind of the game itself, good to get a win. It sounded like a guy who had to grind his way through maybe one of the more difficult coaching performances of his time in Minnesota. Yeah. Combined with, man, I want to go home. Yeah. Man, I'm tired of being here. Can we just go home, please? Did you feel similar respects of that speech?
I did. First of all, though, shout out Brett Blakemore for bringing me with the Prince, the old Prince Let's Work. Oh, yeah. That was very nicely done. Nice throwback there.
Of course. It was my idea.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. That was very well done. I like it. Yes, I did think Kevin O'Connell was ready to go home. He made a comment in his press conference, I think Friday. He said something about 2 more sleeps, but who's counting? Which the phrase 2 more sleeps, somebody said this to me over the weekend. It's like, you can tell he's a dad of 4 kids because that's like a phrase you use with your kids. Oh, yeah. Like, only 1 more sleep till we go to Disney World or something. That phrase, and then he said it in his post-game victory speech, too, no more sleeps till we go home. Yes, I think he was ready to be in his own bed. Players were ready to go home. This is not like a slight to the experience, not a slight to the cities that they were in, but that is such a long time to be gone and to uproot your entire operation. I mean, NFL teams are so regimented, so built on routine that when you take the whole thing and move it as significantly as they did it, it's a lot of disruption for a lot of people. And I think you could see by the end of that stretch, they were feeling it and ready to be done, even if they, I think that type of thing is going to come back again. I'll be very curious to hear kind of what the conversations are, what the NFL looks at from this process, because you could do it again, but I think you'd have to have a team that is willing to sign up for it, knowing that the Vikings, who are as enthusiastic as they get about international travel, you could see it by the end that they were just, I think Jonathan Grenard said it after the game on Sunday that, like, we're ready to go. We're ready to be back home and just kind of get back to normal.
Well, and I think there's even kind of that element because the Jaguars have played consecutive games in the London area or in the UK before. But there wasn't even the, it seems because it's a shorter flight, I suppose. Yeah. But all the same, even the difference of having to set up shop in Dublin, then pick up everything, move to London. And in fact, and you get the extended time. And it sounds like it was a massive difference operationally and just putting everything together into that trip.
Well, that was a funny thing about it is we got a chance to talk to a lot of the people doing the behind the scenes work and names that you never really find out. And I think Kevin O'Connell said it yesterday, people like Paul Martin who put on a lot of this stuff where it's, okay, everything has to get shipped into Dublin, which is in the EU. Yeah. Then you have to ship it to the UK, which is not in the EU and has different laws. And there have to be basically 2 different ferries that go over with different things and different manifests, and every possible thing that you are bringing have to be documented down to the quantity and type of everything. So, I mean, it is, this is stuff that a lot of people probably say, I don't care. Just give me the football game. But this is how you get to the football game in this type of a setting. This was pretty much unprecedented type stuff. I mean, when they brought in, Matt Waletzko, the tackle from Macquarie last week on the practice squad, they have to find somebody that has a passport. They have to find somebody that can get over to the UK, and then they have to have a tailor in the UK to sew his name onto a uniform because they don't have that yet. So that level of detail is what this took, and I think the fact that you did have to move the operation, like you say, was what made it so much more difficult than what the Jaguars would do, because the Jaguars at this point have gone there enough that I think they probably have some of this down to a science. I think the Vikings probably have a lot of this into something of a routine when you go to London only, because they've been there so much. But the Dublin to London thing was new, and it took a lot of manpower and a lot of time for them to pull it off. And I think you'd have certain teams that would look at that and say, you know what, I'm not sure we want to take that on.
Yeah. As we go into the bye week, you split 1-1. Tough loss to the Steelers. You handle Stefanski's Browns. Coach is ready to come home. Coach had to grind from a coaching perspective. But into the bye, I don't know if you were listening as you came in, just kind of weaving my way through kind of a J.J. McCarthy-related conversation. Yeah. And we'll get more in depth on the quarterback specifically. But as you're covering the team and you're trying to turn the corner on the bye, eventually it's full speed ahead to the Eagles starting next week. When you look at the Browns game and you're thinking about, like, what angles can I find? I'm kind of in an I don't know period with the team because in one sense you can say, my goodness, Blake Brandel, Joe Huber, Justin School, put in really tough spots.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, I mean, Pro Football Focus isn't going to be very nice to them. But in the end, I think everyone's walking away going, man, they put Carson in a spot to be successful.
Yeah, the car didn't crash.
But then moving forward, what does that look like? I don't know.
Yeah.
The rookie's got to come back with the wrist. What's the snap count situation out of the bye with Darisaw?
Yeah.
Brandel or Juergens at center now that Kelly is on IR, and then week to week for the right tackle and Brian O'Neill. So in a sense, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then defensively, Van Ginkel in the neck. I don't know. Looks like people are running right at Dallas Turner and they're having success with it.
Yeah.
I don't know about Hargrave and Allen out of the break. So that's what I meant when it just kind of overall view. I'm trying to find a direction with this thing. What do I know about my team through 5? I know they're 3-2.
Yeah.
And I know that Carson has been a warrior in there. He's playing with the bum shoulder. I think he was hurt even coming out of the Steelers game. And he's put this team in spots to be successful. I know that Addison looks terrific when he's on the field, except when he doesn't go to freaking walkthroughs.
Yeah.
I don't know how you are in a countryside manner, kind of in a captive environment, and don't make it to a walkthrough, but different conversation in a different moment. But I'm just still feeling it's like, I don't know what I have in my favorite team. Where do you sit?
I think that's a fair read on it, because there are so many key members of this thing whose health is still a question. I mean, Blake Cashman will come back here, but Andrew Van Ginkel, that whole thing with the neck, I think, is worth continuing to watch pretty closely, because they are different with him on the field. I think everything they do is multiplied because of how intuitive he is, because of how many different things he does that you just can't replace. I mean, that sense of what a team is doing. You see the number of times. I mean, we know about the pick sixes, but there have been 5 or 6 other times by this point that he's almost done the same thing. And you just don't replace that level of football sense. That's not going to come from the next man up all the time. I think you see that with Harrison Smith too, is that there's a level of know-how with players like that that's just unique to those players. So whether it's Cashman, Van Ginkel, Brian O'Neill, I think you go down that list, and then you ask the questions about the defensive tackles, because they've gotten run on a lot. And some of it's the front, some of that's the linebackers, some of that's people jumping gaps, all those kinds of things. But until they can stop that, especially with the teams they're going to play coming out of the bye, whether it's the Eagles, the Lions, the Ravens. I mean, the Chargers have running back questions now with Amari and Hampton out, but they want to run the ball as well. So you have to show that you can get that thing under control. And then what the line looks like with who's the center, when does Donovan Jackson come back, when does Brian O'Neill come back? I mean, there are so many questions. We haven't even mentioned the big one with the quarterback situation. I think figuring all of this out and saying, I don't know, is very fair. I mean, Kevin O'Connell said it, that trying to figure out the identity of this team is still very much a work in progress, in part because they've had so many weeks where it's like, okay, who do we have now? And you have players kind of coming back and leaving almost like ships passing in the night, pardon the Dublin-London pun there. But it's hard to get an identity when you're playing that way, and you just have players kind of, going where they have to go, and switching tackles during the game on Sunday with Justin School and Walter Rouse switching sides. It's hard to get an identity when you're living that way, and I think getting healthy is a big piece of that. But there's a lot of work that this team still has to do of what can we hang our hat on and how do we want to do it.
Yeah, Saquon is looming.
Yes, he is.
But we don't have to worry about that until Monday.
That's true.
It's the bye week.
It is the bye week.
You mentioned and the we're in our own little prism right now, and maybe it's tunnel vision to a negative, but those Chargers, man, I mean, we got some health issues.
Yeah.
But Rashawn Slater, I think he's done for the year.
Yep.
Joe Alt, their left tackle, is hurt. Mekhi Becton and what he was doing with those Eagles a year ago.
Yeah.
They need him, and I believe he is hurt. Najee Harris rips his Achilles.
Yep.
Just preparing to take, I think it was a play-action play.
Yeah.
And people were kind of marveling. Herbert just kind of jumps over him as he's writhing in pain on the turf and makes the throw. And then now Marion Hampton. I mean, we're keyed in. Our favorite team matters most, but we are not the only team that is just getting ravaged right now.
No, it is the way of life in the NFL that people deal with a lot of injuries. And, the Lions are dealing with it right now, too. Terry and Arnold going out for, I think Dan Campbell said, a long time. So everybody has to deal with this throughout the course of the season. And it's part of why this is, you never know when it's your time, because the year where the injury gods kind of smile on you doesn't happen all the time. And they've had moments where they've been in pretty good health. I mean, last year overall, they were in relatively good health. And there are years where it's harder to come by. But that is something that everybody goes through at different points of the year. And they're going to, the question of when you play people, how healthy is Lamar Jackson when they play him in a few weeks? I mean, these are all things that everybody is dealing with. And it's why the whole thing is pretty unpredictable at times.
I want to go somewhere positive before, and tons of text messages and talkbacks on the quarterback conversation, which we will address. But Justin Jefferson, it felt like on Sunday, when, whether it's, this, I've heard him now, it's the second or third time he's actually mentioned in a presser about he's got to take Addison under his wing, and he's got to be that leader. And I'm just kind of thinking, in a vacuum with that, it's like, how do we really have to drag a guy along? And what does that look like in the long term? But again, that's an aside in itself. To the positive, didn't it kind of feel like your team's best player just decided there's no way we're losing this game? And not all of Carson's throws were perfect. Justin Jefferson, I was worried he was going to get hurt on one where he went up super high. And I think Newsome let's just say Newsome helped him to the ground.
Yeah.
But Justin Jefferson and just impressive moments, moments in the Steelers game, but specifically this last one. He's like, there's no chance we're losing to the freaking Browns. I don't care. QB this. Everyone's asking me what it's like with the quarterbacks. I just go out there and I catch passes. Very similar response each time he's asked about it. But your best player just said in London, we are winning one way or another. Who's with me? And he was so spectacular. Not his biggest stat line ever, but I think one of his better games as a member of the Vikings.
Well, the catches he makes down the stretch, in terms of the importance and in terms of the difficulty, it's hard to look at anybody else in the league and say they're better than that. It was one of those moments. I think I tweeted something to this effect at some point late in the game. It's like, just don't overthink it. Just find Jefferson and feed him. And, the old Justin Jefferson's down there somewhere thing. And this is something he will tell quarterbacks, which is getting to be a lot of them now, but the ones he's played with. But his message to them over and over and over is trust yourself and trust me. Like, trust that you can get me the ball and trust that I'm going to come down with it, even if it's something where it's tight coverage, because more often than normal, I should say, he catches those passes that you would say, this is not a high percentage play. I think back, the most famous one, of course, is Buffalo in 2022 with Kirk Cousins. And
the fourth down play?
The 4th and 18 where he makes the incredible catch. And there was a lot of discussion that season about, is Cousins trusting Jefferson enough? And is he taking those chances knowing that it's Jefferson and the odds are more in your favor than they ordinarily would be, given the fact that it's Justin Jefferson on the other end? And And I think that season there was a lot of discussion about, Kirk kind of moving in that direction. And then you, of course, have it with the quarterbacks that come after him, certainly with Sam Darnold last year.
Yeah.
I think J.J. McCarthy, there's some of that discussion, and Carson Wentz. But his message is, I'm going to come down with the ball one way or the other. And it did have that feel late in that game. I think there was, some of the mic'd up stuff. There was quite a bit of chatter and quite a bit of physicality between him and the corners. But it was, I'm taking this game over. You're not going to stop me. And that's going to be how this goes. And I think that's what you see generational players do, elevate themselves and elevate the team to a point where there's really nothing you can do about it. And that was one of those moments on Sunday, I thought.
Cleaning up things over the bye. One thing that I was peppered with, whether it was Vikings fan line and then even kind of in a reactionary mode yesterday morning, was just, with the health of this team, you see this team, and bye weeks usually that moment, specifically if it's prior to the deadline, of course, the idea of adding bodies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you were mentioning with London, we got to have some let's get the passport figured out.
Yeah.
We got to find. I did get a text message. No shortage of tailors in London.
That's true.
So in fairness, maybe they could have just walked down the street.
That's probably true.
And they could have found some
bespoke tailor.
Yeah,
I see a lot of signs for those in the streets in London.
Some very regal looking. Of course, you walk in, it's pins. There's maybe you have a glass of sherry while you get fitted for a uniform in this particular case, but. The idea of adding bodies, this team does happen to have a lot more, in the short term at least, a lot more monetary flexibility than they've had in the past. Hindsight, man, we should have gotten Cam Robinson or something like that. But that was, I believe, via trade. But all the same, the idea of this team, maybe peeking around during the break. I don't know who's on the street. I'm not asking you for specific names, but kind of in that vein from a health perspective, is this a moment for them to investigate that?
It's an interesting question because in one sense, you could say yes, because they have needs and they have draft picks next year, which is different than it's been. In the other sense, you could say they may be a little less in the mode of the TJ Hawkinson type deadline deal this year because they are approaching this point financially where they need to have some younger bodies. They need to use these draft picks to refresh the roster and probably have some cheaper labor. I mean, let's just call it what it is. They have, they've signed a lot of these veterans, and there are ways to make it work cap-wise. I mean, Ryan Kelly is one to keep in mind. They'd save like $11 million if they release him after the year, and that's going to be a question with health. But that was going to be a question either way, given the fact that he's in his 30s, and that's a cap savings, and there's different things that they can do to get themselves back in a decent spot with the cap, but they are going to have to figure that out after this year because of some of the moves they made to get the roster where they wanted it for this year. So having those draft picks to fill out the roster next year and have some of this young talent, this youthful infusion of help that they kind of need, I think they're going to be interested in hanging on to some of those draft picks for that reason. So the right fit is probably somebody like a Hawkinson, where you say, if we're going to do it, it's got to be somebody that's going to be here for more than just this year. You have to look for somebody that can help you now and then also kind of be in the plans probably in 26, maybe even into 2027. I think if they go for something like that, it's going to have to be somebody that can be a fit for a longer term because of the needs that stretch beyond this year. They're going to have different conversations, and they may just decide, hey, forget it. Let's go for it. We'll figure the rest of it out later. But I do know that some of the dynamics they're navigating as they go through this, it's not just going to be about this year. It's how does all of this fit when the cap situation next year is going to be a little bit tricky for them.
Yeah, and the draft picks matter.
They do.
They matter a lot.
Draft picks help you keep your costs down.
As a matter of fact.
Yes.
That's Ben Goessling. When we come back, I've received a lot of it's been a theme throughout the season, really. This is a roster built to win now. There have been roster-specific questions, and how maybe that relates to the quarterback question. I do want your insight on that. That's Ben Goessling at Ben Goessling via X. So whether it's newsletters, his Strib columns and reporting, or just getting his opinions during games, follow him. Ben Goessling via X, brought to you by Standard Heating and Air. More with Ben around the corner, but first, a cash giveaway opportunity.
The Cash thing, the fan and 2 men and a junk truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. Keyword is check. Keyword check. KFAN.com. Keyword check. More Goessling with Nordo.
PA on the call. Man of the match, Jordan Addison, misses the first quarter and just goes ahead and totally redeems himself by catching the game-winning, the go-ahead touchdown at Tottenham on Sunday in London. It's Nordo in for PA. Ben Goessling, thanks to Standard Heating and Air, is in studio with me. And into the break, kind of teasing it, talking about, is this team flexible to make moves maybe in this bye week or leading up to the trade deadline? Certainly. You have to think about what is looming around the corner in future years in regard of money allocations.
Yeah.
This team had a lot of cash, Ben, but it's going to go away real quick. And what are they replacing it with? The draft picks matter. We talked about that. But through 5 games, and I know health plays into this, so feel free to just be like, I can't answer that right now. Let's move on. And we will. Has your perception, again, the theme over the course of the season, this is a roster that's built to win now.
Yeah.
Versus in some ways it feels like it's a veteran-laden roster because we haven't drafted well enough. But again, putting all of that together, has your perception of what this team potentially could be, has it changed through 5 games?
Boy, the phrase "I don't know" is boring radio, but it's kind of, we were talking about last segment, it's kind of where I go because there's just so many things we haven't seen yet. I mean, they're
that's fair, yeah.
Preferred 5 linemen, I don't think have played a snap together yet.
No, they have not.
From Darisaw to Jackson to Kelly to Fries to O'Neal.
Yeah.
So you have that. You've had the Blake Cashman injury. You've had Van Ginkel. J.J. McCarthy, of course, being injured. You haven't had Addison and Jefferson on the field with McCarthy yet. There's
I can't wait for that, by the way.
Yeah, there's just been this, like I said last segment, ships passing in the night kind of thing where one person comes in, one person leaves, and it's really hard to sit here and say, okay, they're going to be, this is the floor, this is the ceiling, because you just haven't seen what they intended it to be yet. I mean, Aaron Jones is the other one that it's like, I know there's another guy that's injured. Aaron Jones would be another one on that list. So, they're 3-2. They lose to a Falcons team that they couldn't stop the run. They lose to a Steelers team that changed the game by running the ball in the fourth quarter. I think that is a big question I have, especially with the schedule coming out of the bye, like we mentioned. But
yeah.
They still, if you get healthy.
Let's get healthy.
And the NFC is wide open enough. I'm not sitting here saying like, hey, it's San Francisco or Santa Clara, because it's not San Francisco. Santa Clara or bust, but the NFC is enough of a muddle that could they get things figured out and be in the mix? I mean, I think job one is win a playoff game for the first time since 2019. I mean, that is a big priority. So are they incapable of that? I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think if they get healthy and get things figured out, they could make at least a 2-round appearance in the playoffs and go from there. It's hard to know where this is going to go, but I just think there are so many pieces to this that still have to get put in their right spots that it'll be a little easier to figure that out. Once they have that, now the trick is the schedule coming out of the bye. You have to have enough pieces to survive it. And there's some of those teams that haven't looked as good as what we thought, but they're still going to be formidable. And you have to get through this whole stretch. But if they can do that, I think there's still a lot of pieces that they could put into their right spots and be competitive.
So I appreciate you, despite my terrible question, you were able to filibuster your way through it, and found a way to move forward. We hear a lot of filibustering sometimes, and I think that you did a terrific job at it.
Oh, thank you.
The Ben Goessling in studio, a couple more. So to the quarterback question, watching Drake May on Sunday night, and Trevor Lawrence. I mean, these are not comparable given years and service, and Trevor Lawrence just made $200 million plus. Yep. I mean, they're gonna ride with him, but an if not now when scenario for him and Trevor and the Jaguars, he's showing up.
Yeah.
But Drake May in particular, going backwards to Sunday night, that completely reinvigorated me to see J.J. McCarthy on the field.
Yeah.
And getting him an opportunity, as you talked about, in the health. And that's why, very unanswerable question that I put in front of you because of the health situation around. But getting 9 back on the field, the commitment that the coach has while not being definitive in pressers, kind of the idea of once we get a rhythm with him, once we get him practicing in full on a daily basis, then the development plan is the plan. How have you found the right answer in terms of how this team, or at least maybe a clue to an angle in terms of how they're going to handle McCarthy or Carson post break?
Well, I think the first question is, when is J.J. McCarthy fully healthy? When is he fully back from that ankle sprain to the point where he can do everything that they want him to do, which does include being immobile on the field? I mean, we saw that the first game where he scores on the zone read play. I mean, that is going to be part of what they want him to do. And I think if he's not at full capacity with that, they're not going to rush it. So that is the first question. But I don't look at this as like a horse race between J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz, because this season is still about figuring out what you have in J.J. McCarthy. I think that is the North Star. I mean, yes, this question of can this team win now? I think they built it with the belief that they can win now with J.J. McCarthy as the quarterback, knowing there were going to be some bumps in the road during that process. But you have to come out of this season understanding what he's going to be. And I think that has been the plan the entire time. I don't think they can get waylaid from that a whole lot, because that will be what this regime is defined by. Did you fix the quarterback situation long term? Are we out of this world where it's okay, this guy is a mid-career player. Do we sign him to a long-term deal? Do we let him go? I mean, all of these things they've done the last few years with Cousins, Darnold, Jones, etc. They don't want to live in that world.
No.
And
I don't want to live in that world as a fan.
Nobody does. I mean, we've watched the recipe play out in Wisconsin for the last 30-some years, and Vikings fans are saying we want our own version of it. Blake Moore's probably back here smirking.
No, it's just written.
Confirm.
It's awful to see. Ugh,
but
terrible.
I mean, that is the way, if you can do it, that people want to live. Is that you have a guy for 15 years, and then you draft a replacement, and he is the understudy for a couple, and then it's a seamless transition, and you're always competitive because of that. So the first step to that is figuring out if the guy you have now can be that player. And I think that is still the main goal for the rest of this season. So I think it's more about when is he healthy and ready to do everything you want him to do than sort of this, where does he stack up in comparison with Carson Wentz? Because if you're sitting here in early October saying, well, the guy we drafted 10th overall, the guy that we said no to Daniel Jones, to Sam Darnold, to Aaron Rodgers, it's either him or the guy we brought in late August. I don't know which one it is. That's not much of a plan. I don't think that, I mean, winning some games with Carson Wentz has been a good thing, but I don't think you can let that make you deviate from what you decided your plan is going to be. I think you still have to see that out, and I think that will ultimately dictate the way they go with this thing.
See, I'm glad you framed it up that way, because perfectly said, because for me, as I've kind of gone through this, Carson Wentz is never going to be in the way that we talk about. If JJ comes in and he's not good, like there's a fear element, there's a risk element. I've seen it from listeners, and we've talked through it. Carson Wentz is never going to be so awful that you absolutely have to drag him off the field. Yeah. As long as he's healthy, he will get you to be competitive in these games. He'll make mistakes. He's going to throw a bad pick. He's going to take a bad sack. Yeah. He's going to make a decision like maybe getting rid of the ball instead of trying to run with it that put him in a spot where his shoulder got hurt the other day. But he's never going to be awful to take him off the field. So do you want to live in that? So you're competitive against the Eagles. You go on a short week, you beat the Chargers. Now you're 4-3. Well, you still don't know what the kid has. Right. And just continue to play that out. Well, we want to win now. We get a little bit healthier. We grind our way. If you are if you're a 9-win team with Carson Wentz, opportunity to go to Tampa or Philly and lose in a wild card game, Do you feel like that's successful versus potentially being a 7-8 win team? But we know, in some ways, through, let's say, 10, 12 games of play, Carson or J.J. McCarthy is or is not a viable answer long term. Yeah. And I know people don't, it's crazy for me to say this, losing with J.J. McCarthy better than winning with Carson Wentz, but I actually do believe that at a base level, there's some honesty and there's some truth there from a long-term standpoint of the franchise. This team wasting Justin Jefferson's prime years. Yeah. Going 9-8 every year is wasting the prime years of Justin Jefferson too. Mm-hmm. We saw it.
Kevin Garnett, early aughts, one and done kind of stuff.
Yeah. In single game situations, we saw it last night. Single season, we see it with the Chiefs every year. We see it with what the Eagles have been able to do, et cetera. That prime quarterback play is going to get you over that hump to where you're winning those playoff games that are so important. And so at some point, that health. And maybe the health of the O-line. See, I wonder, I know the head coach, he's kind of had his antenna has been up recently because of the idea of soft benching or this, and he's been so adamant, and I don't believe it's a soft benching by any means. The kid's ankle's hurt. But
if it was a soft benching, it would require they've been lying on the injury reports for the last several weeks as well. So
I'm not seeing any lies coming from their camp. However, I do kind of wonder if there's a bit of this element now moving forward, not just JJ being healthy, but I want to know that Donovan Jackson's going to be back soon. I want to know that when I put that kid back in, he does indeed have the best of what they can currently do, Ryan Kelly and O'Neal week to week aside, to put in front of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's why they constructed this line in part to protect him. I mean, some of it was also to be better running the ball, which they've been, but they wanted the pressure up the middle that dictated that playoff game against the Rams to not be something that affects J.J. McCarthy in his first year as a starter. And I think the fact that he has not played a game with Christian Darrisaw as his left tackle yet is worth noting.
It's almost criminal.
Yeah, and that I think changes things a lot when you are the quarterback that's helping set protections, and you can say we've got a little bit of the set it and forget it. I mean, Kevin O'Connell talks about the weighty downs. You have Christian Darrisaw where if the help is not coming, you have to win your matchup. You're not getting a chip. You're not getting another guy to help you with a double team or a running back shaded to the side or whatever. You have your guy, and we trust that you can handle it. When you have that player, it changes a lot of things the way you set the rest of your protections. And I think that's worth noting that they haven't had him on the field with Darrisaw yet. So I think a lot of what they are hoping to do or have been hoping to do is to have a supporting cast strong enough that if you get a representative level of play from J.J. McCarthy, it doesn't have to be what we saw from, what we see from Patrick Mahomes at times or what we see from Lamar Jackson. It doesn't have to be that yet, but if you can get some version of what Carson Wentz has been giving you, where it's the ball gets out. Kevin O'Connell talked again yesterday about footwork, and he's said that a few times with Wentz. I think that's been a message to McCarthy, and that was the case again yesterday of, hey, let's get back to some of these fundamentals that you've seen Carson Wentz demonstrating in this offense. If you can get that from J.J. McCarthy, you may be able to get the same level of play or something similar to the level of play you've gotten from Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was very good on that last drive. The last throw he hit to Jordan Addison was a big-time throw. I think they want to see J.J. McCarthy approach that. Doesn't mean it all has to be there right now, but if you can get close to that, given what they have around him, if it's healthy, I think they feel like we can be competitive now, and then he gets the development at the same time. I mean, that's kind of been the whole MO of this team, and I think it will be very telling if you see him do some of those things once he gets healthy and once they get the cast around him, because that has been the aim. That's been what they wanted this season to be. And I think there's still a chance to get a lot of that, or at least figure out, hey, this isn't where we want to be. And then that leads to larger questions, but at least you know.
Yeah, absolutely. What's going to be fresh? Maybe everyone's just turning the lights off and taking a breath for a few days, but what's the next angle via the Strib?
Well, we'll do a podcast tomorrow, kind of a bye-week mailbag kind of thing, and then the newsletter will still come out on Friday. People can sign up for that on my socials. It's free newsletter, comes out every Friday. Have kind of a look at, Kevin O'Connell's talked about what the identity of this team is going to be, and we'll take a kind of 30,000-foot view of that in the newsletter on Friday. And then Emily Liker's been working on kind of a fun story on Justin Jefferson.
Oh, sweet.
Some off-field stuff that I think the plan is to have that done for Sunday. So people should check that out, too. That'll be, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it'll be a fun one. Side of Justin Jefferson that we don't cover much in the Star Tribune. So it should be a lot of fun to read that one.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Ben Goessling at Ben Goessling via X. Follow his work, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. And of course, Standard Heating and Air brings you Goessling's appearances on a weekly basis. Everyone take a breath, and then we try to figure out how to solve Saquon. Thank you, Ben. Lavelle, his Strib cohort, is in Studio 11-ish, and some news is next, 9 to noon on the Fan.
You can join the fans' meat sauce, Lucky, at Fleet Farm in Hastings this Saturday for their Oktoberfest celebration. Join from noon to 2 for the opening of Toyland, yard games, and more. Full details now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
News to Nord brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Poker, blackjack, and table games all year round. Feeling the felt. Horse racing season, of course, is on pause until the spring, but cool events taking place. CanterburyPark.com for more information. And I must mention, Thursdays, they do the NFL Pro Pick'em Challenge, where you just roll into Shakopee, before you hit that $10 table and take Canterbury for a mortgage payment. What you do is you step up, you can make your picks for the football games over the weekend. All you got to do is just be right. And you can win weekly prizes. Well, thanks to the Pro Pick'em Challenge, at the end of the year, somebody's going to win free fuel for an entire year thanks to Quick Trip. So check that out, the NFL Pro Pick'em Challenge down at Canterbury Thursdays. And where are we headed to first, News to Nord style?
Number 1.
We're headed to Duval, which I always thought was weird because that would just be like saying Hennepin here, but regardless. How about the Jags? 31-28 winners over the Chiefs. Yeah. I think this week has almost been like a great evening week because you've got the Eagles kind of looking flat in the fourth against the Broncos. You've got a completely inept Bills offense for a change that just didn't want to have the ball. And then you've got the Chiefs, who were not undefeated, but they were still considered to be a good team. They're still the Chiefs. They're now 2-3 after losing on the road to the Jags. Trevor Lawrence absolutely lights out down the stretch, made 2 unbelievable ice-cold throws, and then the losing your balance, trying to get back up, losing your balance again, to then run into the end zone to score the game winner. Just an unbelievable game to watch. I was watching the Manning cast. I don't know if you're a Manning cast guy or not.
I like the Mannings. I haven't tuned into a Manning cast, but they're usually pretty good.
This is a perfect Manning cast game for me because they're 2 teams that are good. It'd be a good game, but I don't really care. I don't have the invested. It's not Minnesota or Green Bay.
Well, you're a Packers fan, so nothing matters outside of that.
Out of my purview, that is correct.
Yeah.
But how about the Jags, though? They're 4-1. They're in the playoffs. What a game.
Yeah, and, speaking on it earlier, just kind of the if not now, when question I had asked prior to the season for a few different quarterbacks in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence was one of them, at least for a night, showing out in a big way in primetime against Mahomes and finding a way to best them despite throws a pick earlier in the game. I think there was a fumble at the goal line, 4th and 1. Maybe Nick Bolton recovered that, I forget. But you get a little bit of everything in there with Devin Lloyd and the pick 6 for 99 yards. But when you absolutely had to have it, I mean, Lawrence has clomped around a little bit throughout his career, and the teams come up short and lost their way out of the playoffs. But last night even he's running 3 yards past the line of scrimmage and trying to throw the ball. Like what's that all about? Figure out where the line of scrimmage is, dude. But then he's absolutely magnificent in that toss to Brian Thomas after having to scramble a little bit, finds his way there, hangs in the pocket on that particular one. And then, finding some poise. And I think even in the postgame, he stopped by the booth or the table field side with SVP on ESPN. And he's like, it was panic. But then I got up and I expected maybe some pressure here or somebody to come and get me. But then suddenly it was like the Red Sea parted and I found my way into the end zone. So it was a cool moment. The Jags absolutely, with all that is new down there in Jacksonville, they have a defense that can play. They got a kid in Etienne now that he's healthy that's running the heck out of the ball. They have some weapons there. Still trying to figure out how to use Travis Hunter. Unbelievable catch he had last night. Like it was like 40-some yards or something like that. Highlight play between a couple Chiefs defenders. And you say it was kind of an evening moment. It was almost, the weekend was kind of unevening. Whether it was the Bills, who had 8 total turnovers a year ago, that's part of their story. From Josh Allen not turning over the ball to the team in general not turning over the ball. That's been part of their evolution, and they're coughing it up on the ground a couple times early on. And Allen throws a pick, and then Drake May and the performance that he had. But what's happening in the AFC West right now? Broncos finding their way through Philly. Philly's no longer undefeated, but the Chiefs losing the way they did. The Raiders just look like a mess, and Geno Smith might just not have it. He may have lost it. Tip of the cap to Schneider, by the way, who twice in a row now has figured out how to move on from Russell Wilson before he completely cratered. And now it appears maybe Geno Smith before he completely craters. And now they're rolling with Sam Darnold in a shootout with Baker Mayfield, who's resurged his career. Darnold now appears to be even better than he was last year in Minnesota. Has Vikings fans frustrated. But no, the games this particular weekend among it's like someone's going to point out, well, you wouldn't believe week 7 from 2022. I just don't remember week 7 from 2022. Maybe it was crazier, but this was a nutty weekend for games, and it was an absolute blast. But just kind of building again back into the JJ conversation, I want to see JJ have the opportunity that a Drake May did to build himself into whatever he possibly can be. This weekend, the is it over conversation with some of these divisions, whether it's the AFC North, the Ravens at 1-4, still very much game in that weird division. You look at the Bills. Bills probably still runaway favorites in the AFC East, but the Patriots with Vrabel and everybody, they're going to be game. The Eagles, no longer perfect. The NFC North is a complete mess. The tie into the bye. Our squad's 3-2. The Bears, well, they're not going to be winless. We know that. They're 2-2. The Saints won a freaking game. That's not supposed to happen. They're awful, but they did. Cardinals, one of the most egregious losses in franchise history. The Niners, Mac Jones limping his way down the field to victory against the Rams. That was a fun weekend in the league. Got time for one more, and then we'll pause and find Lavelle?
Let's do one more.
Number 2.
It's NHL opening night tonight. 3 games on the docket. First game at 4. Blackhawks going to Sunrise to take on the Panthers. Let's go Panthers. And then a 7 o'clock Penguins-Rangers matchup. A 9:30 Avalanche Kings. Let's go Kings. The perfect day for NHL opening day of the week is a Tuesday. Let's be honest. There's no football going on. There's no NBA yet. There's preseason, sure. But I'm going to be locked into this kind of 3-game slate going on tonight. Yeah,
that's sweet. And, I'm excited for specifically more so for the Wild. I'll be honest. I'm going to check out some playoff baseball later today. I will pop in just to see specifically the Avs and just kind of connect with what they're up to. Pittsburgh and Rangers don't necessarily do a lot for me. The Rangers were my team, my Eastern Conference team for a minute. So Shesterkin and Kreider and Zibanejad. I'm over it.
It's an MSG. There's some value to that.
Yeah,
I guess
it was a poor and fleeting response to my favorite hockey team getting ousted in the first round every year. It was a poor decision on my part, and I moved on from it. But yes, NHL liftoff's going to be sweet, but even better than that, Thursday night in St. Louis, getting to see the Minnesota Wild and getting to see Kaprizov with all that money. Hopefully he's not weighing him down on the ice, and the Wild can get 2 points against the Blues. That's news de Nord, and he didn't mention playoff baseball, but that's okay because Lavelle Neal III from the Star Tribune is going to be in studio, the columnist. We're going to talk about a potpourri of topics, our favorite baseball team in the managerial search, MLB playoffs at large, Bears off the bye week, the NFC North, what he thought of the Vikings in London, all sorts of topics coming your way with Lavelle as the final hour unfolds and starts next right here on The Fan.